All right, hello and welcome to Syntax. So today is going to be a big video. We are going to learn how to write some React. So I know my videos have been pretty basic up until this point, and this one I'm going to try to still keep it simple, but I wanted to show a little bit more than just data types and simple functions. So if you're getting started, you're going to need to create React app, because that's what we're going to use to sort of bootstrap this project. Now I've already done this. I don't think you might be able to do it with npm -g, but I think Facebook likes its own package manager with yarn. So sorry, I typed that a little too fast. Yarn global add create React app. Let's see what happens. I think I've already done this, so it shouldn't really matter. Yeah. So and then we're gonna get started. So let's create a React app. We just create -react app. We're gonna call our app. And there you go. It's loading a bunch of crap files and doing all this stuff. Now, like with any framework, Rails to Ruby or React to JavaScript, you're going to get a lot of stuff for free, and it's going to be sweet. There's going to be bells and whistles and all that. But the downside is that it can be bloated, and I don't know. There's pros and cons to this kind of stuff, I guess. So let's bring our project over here. Let me see if I can resize this for you guys. So, what did this do, right? It created all these files. I'm not going to be able to have time to go over all of them, but, the main thing is that this package JSON is going to be your friend. It's what loaded React. It has these created scripts for you, so you can do things like npm start or yarn start to spin up your application, and all this other stuff, browser. Now, it's also created this source file, right? So we can actually go ahead, let's just start it up so we can see what it actually did. So if we run npm start, that's going to go into npm whatever is going to go into this package JSON file. Here's the script, and now it's going to run React script start for us and load up and localhost our application. So here we go. And this is what it's showing us. Edit source app.js to save and reload. Now I got to tell you, React, the team there did a good job with this tutorial, because I'm actually going to just follow their guide in this tutorial. But we can see how this is loading this. So it's importing all this React files. It's importing our app.js over here. I don't even know what a service worker is. Maybe some React pro can tell me. And I do use React at work, but whatever. It's something new to me. I'm not familiar with it. And if we go over here to app.js, we'll see what looks like to be HTML, but this is actually JSX, right? This is React's own sort of templating language that allows you to have variables interpolated inside of DOM elements, and this will create familiar DOM elements, and it looks like the DOM. I kind of like JSX. I don't know, some people don't. So this is that line you're seeing. There's our A tag, learn React. So this is just being generated from here. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and follow this and learn React. Now, this is just reactjs.org, and what we're going to do is try to write this component. Okay, so React is about little components. They're supposed to be plug and play and reusable, but oftentimes they get so jangled up with complex binded code to other things that you can only use them once, and that's kind of a detriment to maybe the projects I've been on, or maybe just how the code works. But in any case, let's go ahead and just remove all of this. So we are going to, like it said, we're going to write our hello message class. This is going to extend the React component like so. And now we're going to render. So in all these React components, you're always going to have a render function that's going to display out whatever JSX you have. So if we do something like hello, something simple here, we're going to have to export this class that we just made, and I wonder if that's all we have to do. Is that gonna do it for us? No, your render should have a statement. So I'm probably importing export. Yeah, we have to probably render like hello message, and maybe this. Is that going to do it for us? Your method should have a return statement. Oh yeah, hello. It's JavaScript. You gotta return. Now wait, why is it actually not returning? Oh yeah, okay, duh. because you need to return all this JSX inside of this, inside of return function, return whatever. Now, one thing to note, if I did like 2 divs here, well, let's just get this working. Hold on. So there we go. Hello with a capital E. Now, if I had done 2 of these, this is going to actually fail because you can't wrap. You need to have one single JSX element that wraps everything. In fact, it tells you that right here. So that's a little gotcha for those starting out that might throw you off. So anyways, if we keep following this guide, it says we're going to have this div, hello, and we are going to do some props and state. So React is all about props and state. Basically, props are attributes you pass down into components, and state is some components can manage the state of themselves and deal with props. So when we say this props.name, that just means that on the other side, when we render this DOM element, we can say name equals Doug, right? And so now we're basically rendering this element, this React component, and it has one prop name and its value here. And when we, it's gonna, just use some basic JavaScript to get the root, which is, where is it? It's over here in public. So you can see this is our real HTML file, and all it has is this div ID with root. So when we run our JavaScript, it's grabbing that ID element and it's rendering this component on top of that. It's mounting it, if you will. And this props is what allows us to get at that attribute that we're sending in right here, name. So you'll see hello Doug, and that's just straight from the guide here. This is first example in React's documentation. Now I'm going to skip this other one, this timer one, because I think it's going to be covered in this one. So we're going to make a to-do app. Now this is what's cool about React. I mean, other frameworks, if you want to build a to-do app, it might take a little bit more time, but this is actually going to be fairly quick. So, so let's see here. Let's change it up. So we're going to, well, let's see. We'll go back to our app and let's just delete this guy. We'll just start from scratch. So what do we need to do here? We need to write a to-do app. Now again, I'm just writing this from the guide. Nothing special here. I don't code like this, from my head. I'm cheating. I'm looking at the website. I'm looking at the documentation. And as you become a better developer and as you start to grow in your profession, you're going to just basically get better at reading documentation. So this is straight from React's website. Now this is our state. So this can be anything. In this case, we're going to create our items list for our to-do. And we're going to create a attribute here, text, which I'll show you in a minute. This is going to how we're going to insert to-do items. Now, I'll explain these in a minute, but these are basically how we have to bind to these weird functions and get around the whole this thing in JavaScript. You won't really see the binds anymore in most prod apps, and I'll show you why in a second. So again, we have our render function, and that needs to have a return. We learned that earlier. And I'm going to copy all this because I do not want to have everyone suffer through my typing. So this is just copying this. Boom. I don't want the semicolon. Okay, so what's going on? So we have some JSX. Again, you see that wrapper JSX around everything. We have our to-do list, which we haven't written yet. This is just our to-do app. And it's going to have a bunch of items in it, state.items. That's an empty list right now. And it's going to have a form, which has this function on submit. So this is basic HTML5, but when you submit, you can call this, it'll call this function. So we have an input here. It has this on change event. So again, this function gets called when any change happens to the DOM, typing or hitting enter or whatnot. And it reads the value out of our state, which right now is blank. And what this on change handle change is going to do, and I'm going to write it right now, it's going to update this state so that when you are clicking things and making changes to the DOM, you're going to be reading from this state, and it's going to look like you're inputting it right there into the input field, which I guess in a way you are. So the example showed having the functions at the bottom, but typically in production apps, you'll see them at the top. So we'll write our handle change function. It takes the event from the DOM, and it's going to just set the state. Now this is a React function. You'll see everywhere this .set state. So we pass in our state that we want to change, and we're just going to set it to the target value of that input element. And lastly, we need to do our handle submit function, and that again is going to take, I might actually, we'll go ahead and say prevent default, which is just a way of stopping anything weird happening from I don't know, from JavaScript and DOM manipulation and whatnot. So we'll create a new item. This is kind of how you deal with state. You want to create new state. You don't want to manipulate or yeah, you don't want to mutate the state directly. You always want to like pass in a fresh copy, if you will. I don't know why they had an ID in their guide, but I'm just going to go with it. And we'll do this. So we're going to set the state now, and this is just taking a function that's going to say items. We're going to pass in our items, and we're just going to concatenate, just add that other new item into our state. So, and then we're going to reset our text to blank. So basically, when we've submitted the form and submitted our entry, it's going to update our entire items with the new items basically from the old one, adding in that new one and resetting our text. Now we haven't made our actual to-do list here, so if we were to save this and look at what we've got, I think it's gonna fail. Like, app does not contain a default export. Well, for one, I need to rename some things. So we got to go back here. This is now to-do app. So we're importing that component from our app file. We're going to render that component here, and in order for that to work in our app file, we have to export default that to-do app, which we set above. So that's here. Now we should get a different error, right? To-do list is not defined. So, you know, the errors in React are pretty nice. They sometimes work pretty well, and look, it even tells us a line number. This is something that's you don't really get in JavaScript a lot. So line numbers, what's going wrong? This is great. You know, here we are on line 35. It's like, where is this file now? You know, you can write this in the same file, but I'm going to do something more production-like and just make a to-do list because that's kind of how you're going to see it. So if we make our own to-do list, and actually the convention is to uppercase component names, so rename this. So here we go, to-do list, and we can start from scratch. So we want to import React. Every file's got to import React. Oh well, and we'll make a class. Can I get autocomplete on class in JavaScript? Close enough. Extend React. So we're just extending that React component. It's probably just all right, we don't need this constructor, and we can just render our to-do list right here. So we're going to return some JSX, and we'll wrap this in a unordered list, like so. And what do we want to do? So with our items from our props, we want to map over each item and display them. So this is just going to be displaying our to-do list. And we can do it like so with a list item. Now when you do properties that are like an array, you need unique keys. Oh, this is probably why they did the ID of date, because it'll give you a time string. But React will complain. In fact, let's leave this off and I'll show you the complaint, because you'll see this a lot because I always forget. And we want to display the item text like so. And that should be good. And we'll come back to this file to fix that error when we don't send a key. Now, of course, I have to export this component like so. And now I need to import it into our app because we still don't know about it here. Still doesn't know how to find it. So we can say import to-do list from, and we need to go to-do list JS. Look at that, and there's our to-do app. Pretty sweet. Now, it actually doesn't really care about that key thing, but I think it will complain in the DOM. Whoa. Yeah, see, it's telling you a warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key prop. And this is just like because of the way React handles the DOM and manipulates data. It needs to, it prefers to have an ID to know what it's doing. So we can fix that here with key item ID D. Can I type? Okay, ID. There we go. And now we'll get that warning removed. This is just because I haven't changed the logo, but and here you go. What needs to be done? Well, finish this video. Hooray! And let's just let's show you a little bit what's going on here. So in our handle submit function, let's also just console log the state to see what's going on. Oh, state's not defined? Oh, this.state, of course. Whoa. All right. So there's our state, text, items. And if we do this again, we should see hello in there. In our items list, pretty cool, right? There's our ID that we're using to keep our keys on these LI elements. And it's pretty neat. I don't know. I can't hate on React too much. So, and I did say I was going to say that you don't need these binds. I think of course if you remove them just straight out, it's probably going to fail. Oh wow, does it not fail? Yeah, it fails. Whoa, look at that. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing. What's the error actually? Handle change. This is undefined. Yeah, it's just the elements. The JavaScript's is not bound to the DOM correctly. So how do you solve that? Well, these days with ES6 is you write ES6. So if we write this function as an ES6 function, since it's a one-liner, we can just return it like so. Handle submit can also be an ES6 function. We can do a return here like so, I believe. Yep. That should be okay. And actually we don't need this constructor either. So we can just set the state directly on our class. And now everything should be as it was, working like that. Pretty cool. I mean, there you have it. That's a to-do list in React using ES6. Again, it's just, these are components. This is a stateful component. We're setting the state when we load. And of course, when you refresh, it's going to be empty. And we're handling events where we're setting the state based on the target value of that input field. I don't even know if you need this prevent default really, but handling submit, basically creating that new item from the state that we had done on change, and then returning that state from using this set state. So this will actually update that state. We have this object here above, and all this just gets rendered into JSX quite nicely. And we're importing this to-do list list here, so that's a nice little tiny component. It just takes props and sends out a list. So I mean that's easy React in a nutshell. And this is just straight from their site. Now if you wanted to get into more projects, of course they're going to get more complex and components are going to do all kinds of things. I thought about maybe even showing React hooks, but it's not that. It's just obfuscating more stuff. But I will say, follow this guide, write your own to-do list app, and you'll be well on your way. I mean, that's React in a nutshell. It has stateful components that manage things with handle functions like handle change, handle submit, and it has sort of dumb components that just take props and display attributes from those props. So hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, like and subscribe, share with friends, and thanks for watching.